can't bring Emily on camera, can't join you at this time. I don't really know why. It might be because maybe we talked about this before. If you don't have an iPhone platform, you can't do it. There you are. I see that you want to come on. Let's try now. There. Yay! Victory! Such a victory for me, the technophobe. Okay, that was awesome. Thank you so much. So, Emily, come on. How you doing?
Pretty good.
I miss seeing you. I love seeing your beautiful face, and it's great to hear about the kids. And I can't believe how many kids eat avocados with a spoon. And I didn't growing up, but that's a neat thing. It has the texture of ice cream for them, doesn't it? So it's really neat if you get them to like it. So that's a fun conversation about avocados and about your kids and the way you're teaching them to eat. And look forward to changes and improvements from them too, because I think down the road, as more moms learn, I mean, we are the key to our kids' healthy eating. And I think, and I'm hopeful that over time we'll see even changes in behavior and attention and concentration. And so I'm just really, really thrilled. I'm glad you're feeling better, but I'm more excited for all the kids of all these moms and dads who are doing this program. And that's really, really what excites me.
I think that'll be interesting to see with mine too, because mine both have kind of similar but different issues, and I don't have them 100% on the reset this time while I'm figuring out work with them for the next time our household goes through the reset. But between the two of them, it's eczema and allergies and ear infections and acid reflux and stuff. So I really think that's going to be interesting when they're fully on the plan.
And these are all the things, Emily, that the doctors say respond to this intervention. Mm-hmm. So even if you learn, remember, they have your genetics, right? Mm-hmm. So even if you learn what you're reactive to, chances are really going to help them. Just by knowing what you're sensitive to, and you're preparing food for them most all the time. I mean, I know when they go to school, I don't know if you pack for them or when they visit relatives, but I think it's going to make a big impact, even if you don't take them through this. We do take kids through the program, but it's making the changes that are the obvious changes on those highly addictive, highly irritated foods. That's the first thing. You might just see all the changes you need just by you staying on your plan. So, you might not even need to. I know that there are kids who get allergy tests, and removing those allergic foods don't help them. And then there are kids that go on through food sensitivity testing like this one, and not the kind in the doctor's office. And this actually seems better. I think that food sensitivity testing in the doctor's office is a little bit scrutinized. I mean, even the allergist will say, oh, it's not an absolute thing,
I had that one too, like the IgG test, like 2 years ago. And this already has been a lot more helpful. And when I did it through a doctor's office, I really had no guidance other than like, you're reacting to everything, don't eat for a while. So this has already been a lot more like educational, and I've gotten a whole lot more out of how to figure out what I can add back in and when.
You were talking about some of the benefits that you received, and I wrote down some questions that I want to ask you, but just share with the group what you really have learned so far, because maybe there were some surprises or, things you knew you wanted to learn that you did.
I think a big one was I've been battling sugar and chocolate addiction for like as long as I can remember, like since I was a teenager. And I've been trying to get off sugar for like 7 years since my first daughter was a little baby. And I realized every time I passed the kitchen multiple times a day at that point, I was like, I need a sugar hit right now. And it's been amazing to like actually go this long without processed sugar. I've never made it more than 4 days before. So that was something I was hoping would happen, and it did. And then the surprise has been just a totally different relationship with food. And I'm not like dependent on food, like when I'm tired or when I'm grouchy or when it's the end of a hard day and I want to unwind a little bit. I'm not like constantly looking for, every emotion to somehow be tied to something to eat.
Did you find that was a habit that that it filled a need you had? Because I really did. I mean, you walk to the kitchen, right? You know, I found it was a habit. I need to get up and pee, or I need to get up and get a snack because I'm feeling drowsy, sleepy, whatever. I mean, it's a strange habit. I found that I don't even have the physical triggers that trigger me to get up and go get food. It's really just, I've been sitting here for 4 hours and I need to stretch and I need to pee. You know, it's
Yeah.
amazing how, you know, when we start to, I guess I just used to really feel that drop in blood sugar and need to get up and I'd pee and I'd go eat to boost that sugar, you know, sugar load. So that's amazing. You had some real struggles with energy midway. Would you say that was the worst part for you? What was the hardest thing?
Uh, the hardest has been fatigue, and I have little kids. And surprisingly, I traveled all 3 of the weekends during phase 2, and eating on plan wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, even with traveling. I just carried a little bag of some snacks everywhere. I wonder though if, you know, during travels, I relied really heavily on fruit and nuts. And I
Mhm.
think I just wasn't eating enough veggies was part of it. And since I actually switched and added eggs before beef because I don't care for beef, but I wanted eggs really badly. And I actually feel a noticeable difference, energy since adding back the eggs.
I'm glad to hear that. I think that's going to be true for a lot of people, and they do have a positive role to play even in your body's detoxification process. So I think that would help too. I'm hoping that people could just hang on till we got back to eggs. For a lot of people, an important thing. That's good. What was the easiest thing for you?
What was the easiest thing? Smoothies in the morning are the easiest thing for sure. My kids love smoothies. We make a huge pitcher every morning, and I have little like silicone reusable pouches, like you can use them for baby food and stuff. I had them still from my last baby, and we put the extra in there, and then they grab it for a snack later too when they want an extra snack.
So you put it in the freezer?
In the freezer for popsicle molds, or if I put it just in a little squeezy pouch that they can drink from, I put it in the fridge.
Nice. And you've got green stuff in there.
Yep.
And yeah, they don't like take it off their tongue and go, what's this? Because you've got it pureed perfectly and so fine. They don't.
I have a
No
good
chunk.
um and I have a good blender, and then we are kind of heavier on the fruits in our smoothies than some people might be, but we have a lot of greens in there with a lot of fruit.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think that you can go hardcore and say, no, it needs to be, mostly veggies and low on the fruit just because of the carbs in the fruit. You certainly are getting sugar there. But I think once we start learning to eat cleanly, and that's the first important step, then start really deciding, hey, how are the kids going to sleep at night? How late are they getting sugar in the day? Do you see a cycle in their energy? So you'll certainly be able to tune that up. And as they mature, you could gradually start shifting and lowering the amount of sugar they're getting through those fruits just over time. But if even for us, not just the kids, I'm talking to the kids because it's easier sometimes to talk about kids, but I think we're the same way. I mean, I think the easiest way to start a smoothie program is heavy on the sugar and the fruits and adding honey and adding stevia or whatever, but there's no need to do that after a while as your taste buds adjust, as your body adjusts, and as you find and gradually get rid of the sugar. So just for everybody, great shift. If you've made the shift to smoothies and you've tried them maybe for the first time in your life, know that as you continue to do that, building a better smoothie is your goal, and a better smoothie might have less carbs, less sugar in it, even those sugars that are coming from the fruit. So thank you. That is good. Where are you now then? So right now you are in the reintroduction phase. You added the eggs already, and what about your MSQ, your scores and your symptoms?
So when I first did it, I actually ended up redoing it the next morning, like before we started. I was like, this number is ridiculous, but I think I also was sick. So I decided to redo it the next morning after sleeping. And so when I redid it, my number was 53. When I had done it the night before, it was like 73. And when I did it, I think yesterday, I'm down to 25.
Nice. Was there a particular let me say one thing to that. So if people are listening, so in the beginning, when you first do it, what's nice to do is to take that MSQ score as like the past 30 days. So I would have said the first time you did it, you'd want to see whatever your score was on the past 30 days. But I know you had an illness at that moment, so it added some things, but kind of think about in the last 30 days how I've been feeling. Then now when you redid it this week, hopefully it was sort of that 24 to 48 hour picture, that snapshot. You came down, and were there particular categories that really represented your score improvement?
I'm just kind of glancing through my page.
Yeah.
I've written all over.
Yeah.
Headaches, I have 0. Actually, like ever since I think day 4, the caffeine withdrawal, headache ended. And since then, I haven't had any this whole time, which is I was a long time migraine sufferer.
Say that again. You believed you were a long time migraine sufferer, and you haven't had a headache since week 2?
That's right. I was the kid who like was year round on medications for sinus infections, and getting head x-rays all the time from like the age of 13 on, because I was sick all the time because my head hurt so bad. So it's really cool that I haven't had any.
What do you attribute that to? Do you know what did that? A particular food or an overall inflammatory response and toxic load?
I think it was overall inflammatory. When I look back at kind of a cycle or kind of the sequence of how some things have unfolded in my life, I do know I had systemic inflammation when I got that checked like 2 years ago. And as I look back, I really think that was building already at that age.
That's impressive. Let's just say too that you could have even had a leaky gut. We've talked about that before. That has been on the mend during this time. So some people will have been able to have a real diagnosis of leaky gut syndrome had they been really formally tested. And it just depends on the doctor. Doctors can hear your symptoms, look at your MSQ of 50 something and say, this is what you have. And it certainly fits the pattern, whether we give you that diagnosis or not. And now you're on your way. So you're at a 25 now. We're certainly going to say that we want to go farther than that. Had you started at 25, you might be down to a 5. So you've got some ways to go, but stick with this reintroduction phase. And when you get to the end of it, let me help you, or someone like me help you try to get the rest of the way down, because certainly you have the ability. You've demonstrated tremendous discipline and desire and motivation to do what you've done. So, I think you're like you and Tammy, and everybody on here who's made it this far. You guys are poster people for why this is important and why it's worth it. So, I love the story. So you said headaches, and what else? Is there another category? What about GI or
what one? Oh, GI.
Digestive tract.
Yes. Okay. So that one was another one of my big numbers where I would basically still experience like the morning sickness feeling and food aversion feeling I had, even though my youngest is 4. But I would still get that feeling kind of in that same spot of my stomach, as well as I was bloated. I put a 3 on bloated before. I was bloated all the time. And I knew specifically if I eat dairy, I bloat up to like about 7 months pregnant size, but I couldn't figure out what else was doing it.
Right.
And I had a 2 on intestinal/stomach pain. And so those are almost all 0s.
That's impressive. You wrote your reset, your MSQ retest on the same paper as your first one. I'm trying to think psychologically if that would make it harder for me to put a 0 or easier for me to put a 0. If I looked at like, hey, this is what I had before. Oh my gosh.
I put it on like a different side so that maybe I wasn't like swayed by my old number, if that makes sense. I like just kind of looked at the end of that.
Okay. No, good for you. Because I think seeing it would kind of make you go, oh yeah, maybe, I don't know if you would create that or you would decide you don't have it anymore. Anyway, whatever works for you. It's great to see the comparison side by side. Do compare them. I encourage you all to compare. What about, so energy, your energy, did it change at all?
I would say it's changed the most in the last few days.
Yeah.
through all of phase 2, I really was struggling. I'll admit it. I did
I
cheat,
know.
have coffee, like a half really watered down cup when I had to do a long drive with my kids in the car, and I just did not feel aware enough.
It's a safe you.
Yeah. So I did give myself a watered down half cup then, but I went back to green tea in between. But the last few days have been significantly better, and I don't feel like I'm dragging. I still think I'm going to have more energy.
Yeah.
Especially if I go through and do kind of the reset for myself again. I think I will end up with more energy, but I'm doing better than I did at the start right now, for sure.
You may find that adding the eggs back and then getting some of the nutritional things back that you know you're missing, that you're going to retest MSQ in a couple of weeks and give us another number. I'm really eager to hear how that goes for you. And then when you get to the end, certainly let's look at where you are. But we're not really finished yet, people. So if your MSQ is lower and you know you still have some ways to go, it could be that adding back some of those nutrients that maybe you weren't as balanced as you could have been before. And listen, caffeine, once you learn to eat well, caffeine itself is not harmful for you. Caffeine is just a trigger to eat more. It just leads people to the kitchen. It just messes things up, and you want to get this baseline so you can really do this test for this reintroduction. But once you add a little bit of caffeine to your life, I don't think that there's many doctors that I know of that would say caffeine needs to stay out of your diet. It has positive neurological effects. And so for me, I think there's a lot of bigwig people who are talking about diets that are teaching you to put butter in your coffee and, do all kinds of things. So I think that the caffeine added back may help you as long as you don't go back to snacking and then getting are you going to add soy back?
I don't really care either way. I don't use it much anyway. So if I ever used it, I feel like it would be something that's just occasional and not frequent. Oh, and I had a thought. I do think for me, caffeine was tied to eating sugar. And I can't believe, as I glanced back through like the compulsive eating and craving foods, I cannot believe that that's actually not a problem for me anymore.
I'll tell you, for me, the first time I did a reset a year ago, I had to keep, there's different forms of it. Okay, so we didn't let y'all do chocolate. But when I first did my first elimination diet, I was allowed to have 85%, dark chocolate and whatever. So I did. And I went to it every night just to have a little bit. And then gradually I didn't need it anymore. And this time I never went for it. So you'll continue to improve. And I mean, I hope you do, because those cravings do change. So for those of you listening, if this is your first one, you'll continue to make progress even after you've balanced things out. Anything else you want to share? You've been such a positive, participant in the group with great information. All of y'all watching today, I'm so grateful for your participation in the group. I think it's helpful. It's helpful to have that place to commune with others.
I think it has been nice to have other people to talk to and a way to check in and a way to ask questions. Just because I've never stuck to anything before in my life for years and years. I think I had an eating disorder for a long time, and then I was always scared to lay out a set of rules and follow it. And I feel so proud that I've actually
I'm so proud of you. Oh,
well, thank you.
That's really big. And you can do anything you want to do, girl. You can. I just send you
it now.
You what?
I believe it now.
Yeah.
Not that long ago, I thought I was kind of a quitter and that I couldn't stick to anything, whether it's because my life is super, super stressful and chaotic all the time, or just because, I told myself, oh, well, I want to make sure I never go to that bad disorder kind of place again. But I'm amazed. And I think that eating a lot of fat has made a huge difference for me in being able to stick with it. And I scoop out the avocado with a spoon right with my kids.
Mm-hmm. Do you put salt or anything on it?
We do a little pink salt.
Yeah. That's amazing. We, as moms, we work with our kids on their addictions and their behaviors and so forth. And we tend to walk through life thinking we're pretty squeaky clean. But I think you'd get a lot of hands raised if I now asked people, have you had an addiction, or did you have an addiction, or do you have any experience with it? Because food is one of the things that really, really binds us. And I think to be able to break through that, maybe for you, and I know for me, is one of the times you get to really say addiction is difficult and recovery from it is really hard. And that goes with your relationship with food and your habit and your choice and everything. So there is freedom there, isn't there?
Oh, for sure. For sure. One last thing I'll bring up. For years and years and years, I was somebody who had to eat every 2 hours, or I would get like weak and shaky, and I didn't even need a clock. I could tell you if it had been 2 hours. And in phase two, at first, I was still snacking quite a bit, but as I ate more and more fat, like I don't have to like make sure I've got snacks with me anymore. Like I can keep running, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to run out the door and get to this kid's activity and that thing. And it's like, I'm not bound by it anymore, which is really exciting. I do feel like a whole new level of freedom.
It's true. So there, through the years, there have been recommendations of food plans where you need to eat so many times per day. And that worked because we felt like we needed to. But in this shift towards accepting healthy fat as part of our diet, and it is a new mindset really to say that the fat is okay, and you pick a good one and you stick with it, and it's not going to give you diarrhea once everything's healed up and everything's working well, that it can be embraced and not, frowned upon. I think it's helping people shift their mindset away from that. You need to eat 6, 8 times a day, every 2 hours, all of that. Don't you?
Absolutely. And that was, when I think about it, mostly like carby, sugary stuff like granola bars and stuff like that we were eating so often. So I think that those healthy fats make a big difference.
They do. And people are learning about the food pyramid and how it needs to be upside down, and even all those grains and things that we thought we needed. So I'm not going to ask you about your poop, but I hope it's all good and regular. You know that I think you're amazing and wonderful, and I thank you so much for joining me today. Let me see if anybody had questions. How do I see them? Wait. Are there comments or questions?
Here, I don't know.
Any questions for Emily? Any questions for Emily? Let me see.
Tammy, thanks for the love.
Yeah, you better love on her. Yep. Can you see your comments?
I can. This is so cool. Hi, Cindy. I like your last name.
Are y'all related?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
Most of my ancestors are Kansas farmers. I don't know where you're from, Cindy.
Oh, I love that. So fill the whole of the avocado with French dressing, well, which you won't do now, but now you fill it with hot sauce. And hot sauces, Kim Kelly and I had a debate one day about hot sauces, and I don't name a brand because people might like different kinds. What's your favorite hot sauce?
I don't think I ever use hot sauce. I don't think it's in my fridge.
It's regional. Some people love it and they put it on everything, and then some don't. And, being down here where I am in Southeast Texas, people love Louisiana type Cajun kind of hot sauce. And then there's Mexican hot sauce. I mean, all the different peppers and all the different things. So, but man, people who like it, love it. So
that's so funny.
Tammy, you'll have to share what your favorite hot sauce is, because they're not all created equal. Just pick one that's not filled with sugar and you're great. Okay. Well, I love you all. Thank you so much for coming and joining us. I think you provided awesome information. I can't wait to have you back, and can't wait to see how we do the next 2 weeks. Stay involved, keep the course, and good night to everybody. Say good night.
Good night. Bye, everybody.